and welcome to another episode of InteSoul Leadership, where we support and make sure leaders understand that they're not flying solo. It is my mission to be able to touch at least 1 million leaders so that they can impact their people that they're with and create thriving, healthy cultures where everyone can excel and know that they belong. Today, it's my privilege to have a guest speaker with us, and it is my friend, Will Meier. Will is the CEO of Awakening Destiny, where they create leaders and champions. Hi, Will. I'm so glad to have you with us.
It's great to be with you, and it's just so great to hear your vision mission. It's so empowering and inspiring.
Thank you. I want to also share with everyone that Will is the author of Leaders for Life. This is a manual that you can take, and I mean, it is very thorough. I've had my bookmark just dropped out. Extremely thorough, extremely helpful. And if you're looking for a manual or a book that will take you for your life journey as a leader, because whether you're in the workplace or ministry leading, you're still leading even in your home. This is a keeper. This is one that you get, you keep, you highlight, you make notes and all that kind of stuff. So congratulations on getting this book published, Will.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great book, and it is a great reference. People don't read it through front to back. They go to it for references. There's 12 C's, 12 steps, and it's got questions, coaching, actions, and case studies. It's pretty comprehensive. It's on Amazon if you want to buy it. So
there you go. Yeah. We can find it on Amazon. So it's very, very good. So today we're talking about spirituality as well as how it impacts our leadership, spiritual wisdom and leadership. I've often been asked about, when people hear me talk, they hear about what motivates me, why do I do what I do? And I often say to them that I know that if I only really rely on my limited humanity to serve, then there's going to be a lot missing. I'm probably going to mishandle some people, but I have to understand that I've been sent here for a reason at this time. And that means I'm acknowledging that there's one bigger than me who has the plan, right?
Yeah.
And so when, as leaders, if we understand that we need to tap into that bigger side of us and the bigger plan, the master plan for us, then we can perform and we can serve in a greater way and get the transformation that we want. And there was none other than Will, who I thought would be excellent to engage in this conversation around this. And so, Will, I'm looking for you to share some insight with our audience.
I think that what you shared is really good as a prompt. And, it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And we do have wisdom from our experience, from our education, our training, and, we develop intuitive foresight from a lot of that experience. But there is a wisdom that comes from above that I think can create leverage for the leader, because we have to step outside of our workspace to get perspective. And what a greater way than to get a higher perspective on our leadership. And the spirituality that comes through that relationship is really the mastering of the skill of self-awareness, because that relationship is one where you're learning about yourself and you're growing in self-awareness. You're learning how to master yourself, as well as learning how to develop teams and empower people. So it's all really, I think the spiritual part, a big key is about self-awareness as a leader.
And sometimes we don't want to necessarily go there, right? Sometimes people are afraid to well, who am I really? And we've heard it often in the last few years about the whole imposter syndrome and people just mimicking what they hear and see. But can you speak to the value of getting to your authenticity at the very core of who you are?
Yeah, and one of the things we do is we do leadership identity coaching, where one of the most important things you can do as a leader is get in tune with your identity. Because if you're in tune with your identity, with your design, we actually have a leadership assessment that we take that addresses 4 different archetypes. And I'll share a little bit about that further. But understanding who you are And once you get your head wrapped around, this is how I was designed, this is how my life is formed through my experiences, my organic and then the external forces, how my life, and if you can be comfortable in your own skin and be authentic and transparent, I'll tell you, people will follow you anywhere because people can smell hypocrisy. They can smell inauthenticity. They can smell big egos. They can smell greed. They can smell selfishness and self-centeredness. But when you're living out of your identity, a lot of those things, you don't have to grab onto those things to feel good about yourself.
And can you talk to the person who feels like, man, my life has been just this and that, and it doesn't align with what people would anticipate? But I always say there's nothing ever wasted. Everything can be utilized. So can you speak to more of that to encourage that individual?
So in our 12C process, one of them is capacity, and that's where trials and testings and challenges and opportunities face us. And what we try to help people understand is usually your greatest challenge is the place of your greatest strength. And if you just took the opposite of those failures or those challenges and you realize that what's really happening here is you're being masterly crafted to become a solution in the depths of that problem. And so you probably need someone to help you to connect those dots and move you from point A to B to C. But those challenges are actually opportunities for you to be a solution bearer in the world you live as a leader.
I have definitely experienced that. The greatest challenge is where you're going to be used the most. We've often heard people say making a message out of your mess. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Making that mess. But people sometimes run away from that. And so they don't understand that. No, really face it so that you can now use it to propel yourself and then meet the other person who thinks like you used to think, that I can't use that, I can't be used because of those situations. Yeah. And you can show them how you come up and above and rose above those things, right?
And at some point, you're just going to have to say, is it really worth it for me to live my life in all these constraints, self-imposed constraints, either by myself, sometimes we're our own worst enemy as leaders, or it could be our family or the people, they think about us not the way we really are. And the truer you can align with your design, the more effectual you'll be in fulfilling a significant destiny, because you'll make decisions based on who you are and not what people want you to be or what people told you you should be. And so living out of the core identity of who you are is actually, it's a place of feeling significant. And I believe you'll be the most successful in that space.
So you shared with me a while ago when we were preparing this about the 4 spiritual archetypes.
Yes.
Can you share with our audience what they are and what that means?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of assessments out there. And I was having praying about, how do we do this? And there's an ancient text that Ezekiel wrote, and there was this angelic being that had 4 faces on it. It was an ox, an eagle, a man, and then a lion. And I was thinking about that, and I realized that those are 4 foundational archetypes and personality types with strengths, inherent strengths in our God design that are in those 4 facets. And I call the first one the strategic architect, and that's the master planner, the person who knows how all the pieces come together and can deploy a master plan. The second is the empowering visionary. They're like the prophet. They have eyes to see. They're innovators. And they're always, 6 months ahead or a year out or 5 years out, depending on how futuristic you are. But they're insightful and they're very inspiring. The third archetype is the impactful ruler, and that's the face of the lion or the king. And the impactful ruler is the one who gets stuff done. They're decisive, they're results-oriented, they're no-nonsense. They often lack the 4th dimension, which is the collaborative integrator. The collaborative integrator is the people person. And they're the ones that have a high emotional IQ to develop people, understand teams, emotional dynamics, and they're your people leaders in organizations. So you have the strategic architect who wants to put all the puzzle pieces together. You have the empowering visionary who has a voice. Go here, go here, go here, do this. This is what's coming. And then you have the guy who wants results, or the woman. And then you have the collaborator, the collaborator that wants to integrate and create culture and build great teams and that kind of thing. So those are the four. And so we do an assessment, and we use that as assessment for getting a baseline understanding on how you approach your world as a leader and how do you solve problems and what kind of team do you need. If you're a high impactful ruler, you're going to need some collaborative integrators around you because you're going to be stepping on people, getting work done at the expense of people, and you're not going to have a team, So it's that kind of thing we talk about.
I love this, and I love it because, as I mentioned in the intro, I am here to help leaders not fly solo. So they need to depend on the team and the people that are around them to help achieve what they're trying to achieve, which means you need to know the strength of those around you at any one given time. So I know we're talking right now from the perspective of a leader, but if a leader also extends this to their team, know where it's like, okay, where are my collaborators? Where are the people who can rally the team together? Where are those who can really make sure that we're moving in the right direction at any one given time on any one assignment? And those things, they can shift from assignment to assignment, can't they?
Yes. And what I tell people is depending on what phase as leaders, we go through different seasons and we have rhythms and cycles. And a lot of times we're continuous. If you're a leader, you're a continuous learner. So you could be into developing high performing teams and developing people. And you could be going through a phase of that. If you took the assessment, you're probably going to high score there because that's the snapshot in time that depicts all your energy going into collaborative integration. But then a year or two, all of a sudden you've been catapulted into a job where now you're a director or an executive, and you have to do some high-level strategic thinking, and you have to figure out how all the pieces of the puzzle go together. That's a totally different level of thinking and skill set that you can draw from to be that strategic architect. But typically, under stress, you usually run to one. Even though you can cross-pollinate and learn and grow and have an optimized team, a balanced team, typically you'll run to one in the time of crisis. And it's good to know that, because then you can make social contracts with people as a leader and say, look, I'm under stress. I'm an empowering visionary, and I'm going to come up with 30 innovative ideas, but I know we don't need ideas right now. We need to execute. Now we need to deliver product. So I need your help. We need to focus on this part. My innovation isn't going to work for me right now.
Right. So I think that if you haven't heard and you came in midway, there is a real assessment that Will has and created around these 4 spiritual archetypes. I would encourage you to get it. And I'm encouraging you because I think in the past, so traditionally in leadership, we just looked at people from the role we hired them in and didn't take the time to get to learn the individual and their strengths and their makeup, as Will is explaining it now. And so if you can get that, even have Will come in and talk to you about doing some of these assessments for your folks, then you have a better understanding and something to leverage to be able to understand the people around you and then when to engage them as they would like to be engaged. Because really, once we know our strength and our purpose and where we sail, we want to be in that space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, we talked about authentic and transparent leadership. When you are comfortable in your own skin and who you are, then you're perfectly comfortable saying, look, I need you to go execute on this. You do it well and you deliver on the results. And you're not insecure because it's like, look, I created the plan, I created the blueprint, and I have all these teams doing this stuff, but I need you right now. And the highest form of compliment to a person is to come to them and say, would you please contribute? Your contribution is valuable. You'll get, and if it's their strength, they're going to be so engaged, they're going to be so affirmed, and they're going to be like, sure, I'll do that because I get energy out of doing that. And so when you know those things and you know where people's sweet spots are and what gets them energized, you don't have that problem of having 1 in 5 people engaged on your team. You can have 4 and 5 people. You can have a full house, your whole team engaged, because you're activating them and they're contributing based on what they love to do, because that's how they're designed. And that's the beauty of understanding your identity.
And this is so complementary to the work that I do. I teach leaders the principles of agile change leadership so that they can make the shifts and they can navigate well. But they can do it. That process can be accelerated if they understand the identity, their own identity, and the identity of their people on their teams, and know how to utilize them, not afraid to be able to tap into it, because sometimes we get intimidated as leaders if we really don't understand the power of our position to utilize the strength of those around us. And so when we're going through change and we want to be agile in that and flexibility in doing that, when we have a strong security in our identity and knowledge in the identity of people around us, we can make those changes and those transitions much more smoother so that they stick and stay. 70% of change does not stay because we have not properly prepared for it and reinforcing it. When you know what Will is talking about for yourself and your team, it's going to stay, because now you're engaging people exactly where they need to be engaged. What are your thoughts, Will?
Yeah. And, what I hear you saying is you're really bringing people to a place, leaders to a place where they're developing their capacity to be able to have the resilience to be able to adapt in an environment and not feel insecure and have all this negative self-talk and all these insecurities, or what are people going to think of me? It's like, no, you are who you are. You're the real deal. And no one has the whole package. And you're training organizations and teams to develop that capacity to be able to flex.
That's right.
And your identity it's your passion. It's a composite of everything that you are. And demonstrating agility in that is so important in this environment where we live in a VUCA world where there's so much volatility and we have to adapt. And I think it's really commendable that you're committed to creating that agile environment with leaders so they're more successful.
Yeah, and a lot of people are afraid of the risk, right? So they don't move. And then they really have to take a true assessment of what's the risk of doing nothing? What's the cost of doing nothing? And we all know, based on the last few years, doing nothing is not really someplace you need to be, because you just get run over or you'll die on the vine. But what that risk is a less risk when I understand the bench strength that I have around me through something like those spiritual archetypes and how to engage them, right?
And it's just the tip of the iceberg. And, you can go layer after layer and keep going deeper. My wife and I sometimes use Myers-Briggs and we use other assessment tools. But what happens is when your team has language and they have a construct, it gives them permission to say things that they didn't have permission to say. And I'll say to my team, look, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I'll make a joke about myself. And I'll say, okay, we need so-and-so to come do this because if I go into this meeting, it's not going to turn out the way we want. We need a negotiator to go in right now. Right. I'm just making this up.
Right.
But it's like, it gives your team permission and language to facilitate that agile behavior and to be a catalyst to get people engaged, which is really powerful.
Absolutely. So can you, I know we have just a few more minutes. Can you tap into just some of what the other layers might be? Just briefly, just touch on some of them.
Well, there is, for example, the impactful ruler is decisive. They're no nonsense. They're often black and white, and they want results. And they often strive for competency, and they care about what they look like. But on the outside, they look like they have it all together. But they're actually very lonely people sometimes. And you would never know that an impactful ruler is lonely. Because he's not a collaborative integrator at heart where he's building relationships. He or she's more transactional.
Right.
So you would never think that an impactful leader from the outside would ever be lonely as a leader. And as you unpack who they are, you get to see where their pinch points are and why they need certain people around them to kind of make them whole, in a sense, to be a more effectual team. So that's just like one example. The other thing about an impactful leader is they love crisis. Throw them a crisis and they will thrive in it. Now, they won't admit that often because they don't want that kind of work coming to them. But deep down, they love a crisis because they love to fix things. But if you didn't know that, you would be like, oh, well, he gets the results, but I don't know why. So that's maybe an example of going a little deeper.
That is awesome. Again, we are with Will Meier from Awakening Destiny. He is the CEO, where they create leaders and champions. And he is also the author of Leaders for Life. He has this assessment, which we will put in the show notes so you can get access to that assessment around the 4 spiritual archetypes. It has been our pleasure to have you, Will. It's always, our conversations could go on for hours because I love
we share a lot in common.
I love talking with you.
Yeah.
So if you have been empowered by this conversation, we'll have Will's contact information in the show notes as well, where you can reach out to him. And as well as that, my call to action is on January 17th, 18th, and 19th, we're doing a challenge. It's called Unlocking Your Leadership Potential. So isn't this aligning with the conversation we're having?
I think I'm going to come.
And it's a 3-day challenge. We'll meet on an hour for each day. As a part of joining the challenge, you'll get a copy of my new journal called Unlock Your Leadership Potential. It's a 30-day journal. It's pretty extensive. It's not, it gives you plenty of room to work, has quotes and prompts in here to help you to really get into the work and really unlocking and going deeper, as Will has been saying, really understanding how you are with regards to communication and visioning and really executing on what you are assigned to do and how you interact with your teams. So I encourage you to join us. You'll start to see that promotional come out. I wish everyone a happy new year. And thank you again, Will. Do you want to tell the people where they can reach you?
Yes. You can reach me. I think I'll use my email. You want to do my email?
Yeah, whatever you like.
Well, I'm at Meier.will. It's MEIERWILL@gmail.com. That's probably the simplest one. And there'll be a post, a link to the Kingdom Leadership Assessment. It's 20 questions. It's like 3 to 5 minutes. And we'll set up an appointment to go over the results. I'll run a report for you, and we'll unpack some of the dimensions of your identity so that you could be a more effective leader.
And what I love about this is sometimes in the past, we thought we had to keep our spirituality over here and our corporate life over here. Well, we now know with everything that we've been going through, people need us to be able to bring our whole selves in. And you are equipped to do that when you have a good, solid spiritual life, as well as your corporate skills and your leadership principles intact. So don't be afraid to stand and be who you are, all of who you are. And here's some more assessments that Will has for you. And you'll be able to really tap into those when you join the challenge, the Unlocking Your Leadership Potential on January 17th, 18th, and 19th. Until our next episode, thank you for joining. Make sure you subscribe and share and share and share. Have a good day.